Hey y'all, it's Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis on July 24th, and I have moved into my new apartment here in Boerne, Texas. Boerne is, as you can see, it's spelled B-O-E-R-N-E, but it's pronounced Boerne. I don't know how that works. It's an old German name, and then it's of course been, the name itself has changed over time as Texans have adopted it as one of their words. But I wanted to show you my new grow setup for at least the next couple months. So of course we had to move down here, and we'll be here for probably 3 months while we buy our new house in this area actually. So we're pretty excited about that. But this new grow space is way better than the porch that I had in the previous apartment. And of course, I should say that we went from apartment to apartment and then to a house probably at the end of October, in the future, probably because, my kids have to be in school and we wanted them to start the school year, and just selling the house didn't time out to match that anyway. So we have to have a short-term lease, which is kind of annoying, moving 3 times in a single year. But that's just the way it is. So also my wife's a teacher, and so she has to start work. So driving back and forth an hour and a half each day from where we were before, which was the Dripping Springs area, which is southwest Austin, to Boerne, which is basically northwest San Antonio, just wasn't going to work. So it is what it is. But I'm going to turn the camera around and show you some really cool, I'm really excited about this particular grow space because there's so much room. It's sort of a small backyard on the first floor, and I apologize for the sound of this. Is probably not going to be as good as normal. I still can't find my microphone, which usually attaches to my phone, which of course is my camera. So if the sound quality isn't as good as normal, sorry. Hopefully next time I will find it and I will be able to use it for the next video. Anyway, let's turn this around. So I'm going to start by just going slowly around my sort of backyard, I guess you could call it, and show you where I get to grow my plants now. And you can see, it's middle to late afternoon, and so my brightest sun-loving plants are over there. Those are the Sertapodiums. And then these other ones, the Catasetums are there, and then I have different Cattleyas underneath these other shade cloths, and they're doing really well. These are, the shade cloth is 50 or 60%. East is that way, so as the sun comes up over the sky and then eventually sets over there, the sun kind of hits the building sometimes during the day, and then is completely unobstructed for other times of the day. So it's a pretty good setup of full sun and then shade between full sun sessions. So it helps with some of the burning. Of course, the shade cloth helps the most with the burning, and I still have burning leaves. It's just always a game you play, the leaf burn game. Whenever you move to a new spot and you're trying to figure out where the sun tracks and what angles cause what amount of sun and amount of shade. So it's an ongoing game, and like I said, I'll get to do it once again when I move to the next place. Also, I have my seedlings still under a light here in the corner of the patio, and if you're burning your seedlings, there's a good chance it'll just scorch them and they die. So I find that it's easier to just keep them outside but under a light so that they get even, consistent light, and then and don't get sunburnt. I was actually getting the sun in the late afternoon coming through here, so I added a little shade cloth. And of course, this light is just an amazing LED light that I got from Carnivoro. Drew Martinez is the owner, and his background is in lights, or I should say optics specifically, and then he uses it for his carnivorous plants business, and he creates these lights himself, specifically for carnivorous plants and for orchids. So I definitely recommend, if you're if you need a light, carnivoro is definitely where I would recommend. Also, as everybody knows, it is the hottest summer maybe ever. Nobody's said that quite yet, but it sure seems like that's what's going to happen. So I really like these sensor pushes. This is how I monitor my temperatures outside as well as inside on my windowsill for those plants that are inside. But these are almost all Cattleya type seedlings. I've got a Nepenthes here and a small Pangicula here, but everything else is mostly Cattleyas. I have Phalaenopsis ludomaniana there, and then a Tetraspis over there, and a Tetraspis over there, but everything else are Cattleyas. So I've removed the shade cloth from 2 of these, and I'll show you, rather than going through every single plant under every single shade cloth, I'll just show you what I'm doing with 1 bench of Cattleyas, then 1 bench of Catasetums behind them, and then of course the Sertapodiums in the far back, which get no shade cloth whatsoever. And I mentioned the leaf burn game, and got some damage here even on this. This is a Myrmecophilia hybrid, and even just touching the leaves now, I just removed the shade cloth moments ago, and these leaves are already warm, but these plants are okay. They're getting some sunburn, but ultimately they'll be fine, and will end up actually probably thriving really well. If you can grow your plants at the uppermost end of their light spectrum, you're probably going to get the most growth and the best blooms. So a lot of these guys went from a pretty shady patio to this very bright setup, and they seem to be handling it pretty well. I was worried that there's going to be a lot of burn even with the shade cloth, but so far so good. And if they haven't burned excessively by now, I don't think they will. The Catasetums were in a much brighter place at my old place, so there's less of a brightness curve for them to climb up to get acclimated to these conditions. But even still, there's still some burn going on. A few of these at the very top here are getting some sunburn, but nothing I'm particularly worried about. I think all of these will bounce back just fine. And of course, Catasetums grow a whole new set of leaves every single year. So, if I get sunburn now, it's okay. Next year will be just fine. Honestly, I think I'm more concerned about some of the shading of some of these smaller ones that are underneath the leaves of the larger ones, to be honest. If I could do this over again, I would have another bench like this and have half of these on one bench and half on this other bench, just because those leaves do have a tendency to shade each other out. I've got some Saracenia flava and leucophylla here. Now that I'm looking at them, I would say that the leucophylla are getting scorched and the flavas are doing okay, so I think I'll move this to a slightly shadier spot so that I don't kill them all. And then of course I've got this gravel here as mulch on top. The Sertapodiums are here, and you can see my Neobenthamia, or Polystachia Neobenthamia. It used to be Neobenthamia gracilis. It's got a nice little puffball of flowers over there, and we'll go take a look. But my Sertapodiums are doing well. Even with the heat and direct sun, they're still getting a little burnt. This is a group that really needs crazy high temperatures and crazy high light to do well. I have both. Even still, they're burning just a little bit, but nothing that really worries me. Again, you can see there's some yellow spots and coloration, but these might actually be mechanical damage from moving. and not so much from sun scorch. I'm getting a very small blooming from the Polystachia. Really cool little thing, super fragrant. This particular bloom is very small. Usually the ball of flowers is big enough to fill my hand. So I'm not sure if this is just sort of, they have these kind of little smaller in-between bloomings. That's what I call them. But you know, they have sort of a main flush of blooms, and then these come in sort of as smaller blooms throughout the year. I mean, if you're interested in a fairly easy orchid to grow that just blooms all the time and has incredibly long-lasting, incredibly fragrant flowers, this is definitely one of my favorites. I really enjoy this one. And then finally, I have, well, you'll never guess the name of this one. This one is actually called Catasetum Darkness. And believe it or not, that's its name. Sometimes the naming conventions for these don't always work out well, especially when you have significant amounts of highly variable species in the background, like Peleatum or Expansum. So this one I have kind of pulled to the side just as a way that I can enjoy the blooms. And of course they are very fragrant, very nice. It's good to have these in the dead of summer where everything is just brutally hot and doesn't really want to bloom. And then I've got some other ones, Neomoria Wallisii, which I can't seem to bloom for some reason. So if I don't get blooms by this time next year, I think I'll end up selling this plant to someone who can grow it a little better. And then this is Peristeria alata. I'm really excited to see blooms on this, and then maybe the next year, maybe on the next growths that are almost done growing. Anyway, I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you later.